but it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because the Guardian is clearly seen as one of the great innovators and pioneers and embracers of digital, but its critics would say, but it runs at a loss. So how do you square that conundrum?
I guess we've always been a bit protective because, The Guardian, for anybody who knows, is owned by a trust. We don't have any shareholders. So we've always been able to operate, I guess, in this kind of slightly nice, lax space. So even though we've had job losses, they haven't been as bad as they have elsewhere, and we're all totally aware of that. And at the same time, so in the world that I work in, I work with open data. So I can't imagine how open data could be put behind a paywall because we want to be part of the web. And so it's a really difficult place for us at the moment, I think, because we what we're trying to do, I guess, is just focus on the stuff we're really good at. And you can see how the centre of gravity has moved. I mean, when I joined, I wanted to work for the paper. I was brought up with the paper. And, going to work on paper was a big deal for me. And now, the paper is not the centre of what Guardian does.
Even logistically. I remember talking to you a while back and you said it's still exciting when your piece gets picked up and put in the paper.
Oh, it's still exciting, absolutely. Having a byline in the paper, you never get over that as a journalist. It's still great, right? Seeing your name written down on a piece of paper, it's like a permanent thing. But you can see even geographically in the newsroom now, there's a big old news desk in the middle, which is combined web and paper operations. And the duty editing desk called the back bench, which was historically the most important desk, is to the side of that now. And basically people write, like a lot of people will be producing several versions of a piece all day, some the website to get something up quickly, then an analysis to the site, and maybe some audio and film. So it changes how you work as a journalist. But I guess we're lucky. We're not in the a lot of our colleagues work on places where they have got shareholders and all that stuff are a lot more threatened than we are, I think.
Laura?
The other one is one very big thing though that in a sense everybody works in news always thinks that they're very, very special. And of course we are all very, very special, big journalists and that, all marvellous. But actually, in some senses, you just have to do what other markets always have to do, is do something either that nobody else is doing very well at that point, or do something that nobody else is doing yet. And if you were to sit down and analyse broadcast headlines from 2012 compared to 2002, you will now hear people saying things like, we'll be assessing what this means for you, or you'll now hear, and with the latest analysis, we'll be talking to me, or something like that. You would never have heard that 10 years ago, because 10 years ago it was, here is the information, this is what has happened, and what has become a valuable commodity, if you like, is context. Because we all have all this noise and stuff, and all this amazing stuff on the internet, which I love, but that's confusing, potentially, for the audience, because you've got information all around and everywhere, and soon that's going to be on your Apple Watch, or it's on a giant screen when you're walking through a train station, or it's on your phone. What we believe very strongly, people also really have a growing thirst for, is context and analysis, and that's something that we've been trying to move into pretty aggressively, in a way that traditional mainstream broadcasters just didn't do until fairly recently.
I totally find that with what we do, because that noise around the news stories, so when the riots hit a couple of years ago now, what the most successful thing we did was thought we just should have a list of every actual event we know has happened. When we hear about a shop being looted, we should just have that shop on a database, and that can make a map, that'd be quite useful for people. And it didn't look like 1 million pages in the day, because people were craving that kind of solid information. You had so much noise and stuff being thrown at you. Actually, once sometimes you just want the facts, you just want to know what's going on in a simple way that you can understand.
But the Guardian has made great play of the idea of open journalism, that the members of the public are involved in the creation of the news. But where does that end? Isn't the logic of that eventually the Guardian disappears altogether and the journalism is done by the community?
And we have so many discussions about it. So one thing which is floating around for a while is this idea of you have trusted users. Say Wikipedia does. People that build up trust, they earn trust, and you allow them kind of greater access to what you do. And what I find is we've done quite a few kind of crowdsourcing exercises, which is what you call a survey. It's the same thing essentially. And what we find we have to build in at the back end of that, checking through the stuff that comes in. You can't just put stuff up unmediated, because there will always be some idiot who will post border pictures or whatever. So we find, so we did something recently. It was just a really simple idea, something the office had, about asking people what their broadband speed was supposed to be and what it actually is. You can test your speed, really simple idea, and it did like 3,000 people did this in an hour because everybody cares about the broadband speed. Right? So then we had to go through all those things that afternoon, you know, 2 of us, and you know, kind of remove stuff that we didn't want to appear on the map. So it creates a lot more work, but it also makes what you do stronger. So it's, you know.
If anyone wants to jump in any time, Madam here.
I just have a question.
Microphone.
Vadim, you mentioned something about that people should know that content is not free anymore, or it shouldn't be free. What sort of content shouldn't be free, and the one that's going to remain free, does it mean it's of less quality? This is one thing. And the other thing is that I work for print media, print journalism, and I'm one of those people who feel a bit threatened regarding the future of print journalism. Would you think that one day a tweet would be enough for people just to know what's going on in the world? I mean, like politics, economics, and so on?
I don't think so. I mean, will tweet be enough? Well, it depends on what we're talking about. But if we're talking about a celebrity, about, I would say, this, she's expecting and what's the sex of her child, I think one tweet would be enough. And it's more or less the case now. If we're talking about the crisis, something more complicated, social change, I don't really think that one tweet would be enough. And that's what content should be left free. Big debate. I think nobody knows, but the common sense is that news, which is being commoditized, will be free. General news, very breaking stories. Long-form journalism, analysis, commentary would be, I think, behind the paywall.
Laura?
That's
Very quickly, isn't the point of all of this change? It's not for us to decide anymore. And I think actually successful news organisations or content organisations, call them what you want, will be the people who are everywhere, who provide stuff for everybody to decide what they want. So if they want to just follow someone on Twitter, fine. If they want to read the whole report, here's the link for them to click. If they want to watch a longer report on the TV news that night, fine. If they don't, whatever, because it will change the way that people live their lives. People do different things on different days. Some days you might feel like sitting and reading all of the Financial Times from beginning to end. Some days you might not feel like doing that. And I think the change we're really living through, which is why some people in the industry find it so hard and so scary in lots of ways, including me, is because it's not for us to decide anymore. We used to be the gatekeepers, and now we'll be the curators, and I think that's the change.
Gentleman back.
Hello, my name is Christian. I'm project manager of the first news website in Romania. It's called Realitate.net. In addition, I'm sorry I didn't catch the discussion from the beginning because I had to have a live intervention at my television in Romania. So, journalism is tending to move on the more tabloid. And on speaking about online media, we have to show more books, more shocking images, more shocking stories, celebrities and stuff, to have more, let's say, views, page views, and more impression for advertisers. That's how it works right now. Do you think that paid news or any method of payment from the online journalist would work in, I don't know, near future or not, making some revenues to build and keep some editors which generates those news?
Well, I think there's 2 points there, but let's take the first one first. The sort of racing down market, the sensationalism, the celebrity. Don't want to mention the Daily Mail, but the Daily Mail model is proving the most successful and the biggest news website in the world. Is that a problem, Simon?
I think it's kind of relevant whether it's a problem or not. It's just part of life. I think that there is still a place for kind of quality journalism, even if that quality journalism is conducted via Twitter, or because it's about trusted sources. So if a story happens now, if there's a fire in this building and it was a disaster, then I would follow on Twitter because I would want to know. Because for the people I follow on Twitter are people I trust, And if they say this link is useful, I would go and have a look at it. And I think it's increasingly about trust. You know, the world's always been a kind of slightly seedy place out there, and it's just that this is in your face all the time now. And I think people are clever enough. You know, my kids are clever enough. You know, they're very young, but they're clever enough to know that, you know, you need to be careful online. And I think that, you know, it's just part